All right, we're live on Facebook. What's up, guys? It's
Hello.
pretty amazing. So it's something new. First time in a long time that any Arach media team member has been in the same room together. What's up, guys?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a year. Um,
Yeah,
I'm vaccinated, so
Nice.
I'll be vaccinated next week.
yeah, and David,
Oh, dude, good man.
you as well, right?
Yeah,
So
I've
a little
gotten
public
shot.
service announcement to everybody. Um, yeah, obviously, I had a little bit, of business to do in Sacramento. Told Richard, hey, dude, let's do this out of your house. And I was here on Wine Biz. I make wine for those that don't know. And an amazing little eatery here decided to host my wine, which is Casbah here in Sacramento. If you're in Sacramento, support the business that supports Armenian business. Anyway, end of story. Today we have an amazing show that Richard and David mostly were working on, something that David has brought up. It's the second portion to what we were doing last week with Ara, and we are fundraising for One Armenia, something that we've been doing since November. Raised a bunch of funds, and would like to continue doing that, right, David? What is One Armenia? What's our? We just want to kind of we never plug the fundraising entity as much as we should, and I just want to kind of spotlight it for a second.
Sure, One Armenia, they're doing a lot of work for wounded soldiers right now, which is really, really amazing. They're also focused on, I believe they're focused on employment opportunities in Armenia. They're a global community of change makers aiming to raise the standard of living in Armenia. They collaborate with grassroots organizations to implement innovative projects that accelerate job creation in agriculture, tech, tourism, and made in Armenia products.
Right.
So that's what they were founded on, but now they have many projects centered around rehabilitation for the soldiers.
Weren't they the main sponsor of a telethon and a huge fundraiser recently with all the people doing concerts and stuff
Yes.
like that?
Yeah, months back. Yeah, I'll share. I think I have the ability to share my screen, right? I'm gonna go ahead and share real quick. Sorry, Rich, I'm stealing since the question came up and was posed to me. Here we go. The ongoing projects: employing Artsakh women, helping wounded soldiers, compensating military families, empowering our heroes, feeding Artsakh children, and they're helping raise funds for Hike Armenia.
Incredible.
So, yeah, there's more, quite a bit more. So, yeah.
So today's show, if I understand correctly, what we're going to try and get accomplished today, we're going to talk about a lot of the news, and there's a whole lot of it. We're going to do our best to get through all of it as much as we can. We're also going to go through and do the follow through on our social media basics and talk about how to use social media in a different way to be a little bit more effective. Last week was about where to get information, and this week is going to be how to disseminate information. And then finally, we're going to talk about what topics to really focus on, because once you get all your information, you process it, and you decide that you want to share it with other people so they get on board. The next step is which ones do you want to share, and how to make that more effective.
Exactly.
So in terms of our news, we've got, oh my gosh, there's so much to cover. We've got everything from Mother's Day announcements in Armenia to Pashinyan and Putin meeting. There's ongoing political turmoil in Armenia. There's a lot of military changes that are happening all across the board. There's a lot to talk about, because if we think this is over, we're not even close. And then there's, we're trying to preserve the cultural heritage of Artsakh and the struggle in there. David, other stuff you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, if there's time, obviously we can give an update on COVID, as well as there's a popular record label in Europe or in the UK, right, that just recently changed their name, and that's related to the Armenian genocide. So yeah, perhaps we should start with today was Mother's Day in Armenia, right? It was also Annunciation, right, which is when the angel Gabriel appeared to Mary. So it was both of those days, if you will, in Armenia, as well as Christians around the world for Annunciation. But there was some really concerning news items related that are related because today's Mother's Day, but yet the police were getting aggressive and assaulting women that were protesting, which we'll get to in a moment. Yeah, I mean, today.
It's currently loading right now, and I'll be able to share it in just a second. But yeah, it is kind of
Okay.
disheartening. I would say more than kind of, largely disheartening to see events like that, especially on a day like today.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Women were protesting in the Harabarag, the Republic Square, for their sons, brothers, fathers, nephews, uncles that are missing from the war, the POWs. They were protesting about that, and then police met physical with them. Yeah.
Which one of the themes that I try to bring up nowadays is when people say Pashinyan is so much different than the old regime.
Yeah.
Many people don't know, but during the old regime, Serge Sarkisian, there was an almost daily, what do you call it, a protest of mothers asking where their missing sons and daughters or whoever the service members were. So in reality, there's a lot of parallels, and in reality, it's a very good highlight of maybe we shifted to a more neoliberal way, like a more like palatable way of kind of misleading and mismanaging Armenia. But in reality, not much has changed. Even so, it has gotten worse because I remember when those mothers of missing soldiers were posted up in front of the Ministry of Defense. We're talking about 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? Those are like dozens. Now there's like literally hundreds of them asking where their sons and daughters' bodies are. Okay, so here we go. One more parallel, one more way of kind of, allowing us to understand the post to the present. Anyways.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perhaps we should move to the main news item of the day, where Pashinyan met with Putin on Wednesday, Russia time, which would have been yesterday or last night our time, right, Greg? What can we share about this?
Obviously, the main point that's like most concerning to me always was because there's obviously what the West is trying to pander, and there's actually what's happening in the geopolitics of the region with the buildup of military in Ukraine and Russian borders that's concerning, right? But then there's also what Russia wants to do and how it wants to kind of navigate the post-war Caucasus in that region, and that seems to be the discussion predominantly kind of around, like, yeah, obviously there was a nuclear power plant, the Medzamor, what Russia will help fund and manage it. There's also the POWs, but most importantly, of course, is the unblocking of the what do you call it, the border roadways. I'm most concerned about that because this is going to put Armenia at a perpetual and forever disadvantage. All of the Pashinovlus, as a friend of mine calls him, friends, seem to be favoring this linking, not just with Azerbaijan, but with Turkey as well, which is not something that Putin's talking about, but Putin is mostly talking about like unblocking this and that. Look at them hugging on this. God, I hate everything. I'm sorry, guys. No, this is really, really bad.
Well,
because,
to your point, Greg, I think it's interesting to see Pashinyan's 180, right, where he told Putin that the Russian leader's personal contributions, quote, have gone a long way to stabilize the region.
The man has no stance, David. I love you, Rich, but like what I'm trying to say is the man has no stance. He is for himself out there. That's all I can say. That's all I can always drill down. And yeah, someone that was anti-Putin is now pro-Putin can only tell me that, I don't know, some things that we haven't heard about are just being discussed, and it's somehow aiding him. And here's Lavrov with our, what do you call it, foreign minister, same Lavrov that literally said that the Artsakh, guy, by the way, partially Armenian, I believe born in Tiflis even, but just only born. He, now seemingly are, chit-chatting away and hanging out with Armenia's foreign minister.
Right.
I can't think nothing more than just be nervous. Obviously, what do you call it? This is Russia. Russia is going to try to, has the peacekeepers there. But I'm always nervous about the West outsmarting Russia. And when that happens, we are going to be in a double loss situation. You know what I mean? Like it's just going to happen. That's why I'm really, really, my eyes are pierced, what do you call it? Focused on what the hell is going on the border between Ukraine and Russia right now. With like, we're talking about like thousands of tanks pulling up to the border. So this is no joke.
Yeah, it's true. The concerning things like you mentioned, Greg, Putin's talking about opening the border of Azerbaijan with Armenia, saying that this was outlined November 9 agreement, saying that the move will provide Armenia more opportunities, Putin said. Just to mention, Pashinyan did bring up the prisoners of war issue, as well as Ivazian, the foreign minister, in his meeting. They both brought up POWs. Still no movement on that. Pashinyan is saying he's very happy to see that there is no discrepancy on that issue with Putin. What does that mean? Why is there still no movement? We need to get them out.
We're just answering our own questions here. This is my digest of the things. You know, again, we're not journalists. We're regurgitating information that people are curious about. So you got a power there that wants to literally like kill you, spit on you, still doesn't recognize your genocide, right? The other one is just like a puppet state of that same regime, is actively killing your POWs. How do you think unblocking the economic gateways in the region, how do you think a bus from Yerevan would travel to Baku feeling safe? Don't you think it's going to be a marked bus?
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a bus that has like a bullseye on it. You know what I mean? Like, I really don't understand. But number one. Number two.
What do they think, that we're just going to start buying like goods?
I mean,
they think that we're going to just start like, oh yeah, that's fine. We'll just give you cash and you can just give us some, tea and stuff. Like, what do they think?
Well, right. And then to your point, Greg, about the marked bus, we're still seeing civilian vehicles having rocks thrown at them by Azeris on the border. So like,
there's never talk of security. There's always talk about opening up economic unblocking, blah, 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 this and that. By the way, guys, there's something that came out the other day, which is both anti-Azeri and anti-Russian as well, because those are petroleum-based economies. I fear for every petroleum-based economy of the world. Even, GM and Ford are ushering the electric car age.
Yep.
Gas and oil is gonna start plummeting in demand.
Eventually,
right. So, like, I know all this unblocking that's being done. I'm just afraid that Armenia had a little bit of a stance. Now it's gonna be tied into economies that are sinking completely, Azerbaijan included. That country is gonna turn into a nightmare in 10 years. Trust me, regardless of Armenia. You know what I mean?
Right.
Regardless of what we do.
Right. Greg, the other thing you brought up, and it's a good point, especially in Turkey's case, well, they both have enough money, right? What's preventing them from going in and buying up whole industries of Armenia? Which
they will do. We don't have to look at Armenia. We could already look at Georgia. We have an example. Go ahead, look there. Batumi, the entire city is Turkish. You know what I mean? The pipelines that driven from Baku into Turkey, every inch of the way, Georgia, grabs some kind of transit, commission from it. Time out. One sec. Why do we not understand that when Azeri oil comes through Georgia and into Turkey, that they take tariff, but there's going to be a road literally going through Armenia, and Armenia has no right to even ask for any tariff for anybody to go through. Like, why isn't that hurting the Armenian neoliberal pro-Pashinyan human beings' ego? Or are we that complacent and completely done? You know what I mean? Like, we're done as a nation. Or, I'm sorry, this third option, half of Armenians don't even know what the map of Armenia is, okay? And don't even know what the hell that is. As long as, the neoliberal ways of the world are upheld, everything is okay. I don't even need to look at the map. Pashinyan is the revolutionary guy. I'm appalled, guys, and I'm sorry I'm always this on edge every time.
I think you have a right to be, Greg. I think we all share your sentiment, man. At least the three of us.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And I think that to ask the question. Sorry. to ask the question about, are we done? It's hard to say. I think what upsets me about it, and I don't want to take too long on this, is that I see plenty of examples of Armenians who are even in this country who are willing to sell out for temporary gains, and they're not really gains. It's temporary comfort. And so to any of those Armenians who are willing to do that and not willing to go for the long haul, then I guess I would offer up what I would just say. Then don't complain later when there's no Armenians. Don't complain later that we've lost Artsakh when you were willing to sell out anyway. So
there's no conversation on Sunni. There's no conversation on the fact that there's going to be a motorcade going all over your head, bro. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's tucked. The Sunni thing is tucked into the military change when we get there, because it was discussed. The military ministers of defense of Armenian and Russia have spoke, and Sunni came up. The security of Sunni, which is the southern province of Armenia, and we'll get there. But to your point, Greg, other than that, it's not really being talked about. It feels like.
So our next big topic is a lot of the political unrest that's in Armenia proper. Which news item on this would you like to talk about first?
Well, I mean, we're already graced through the police arresting mothers that are protesting on Mother's Day, right? Here again, we're talking about this neoliberal. Never mind. I'm not gonna go into it, but it's just concern.
Yeah, of course. They're protesting on Mother's Day for their sons.
Yeah.
And then they get assaulted by the police and arrested. 15 women were arrested today. A female journalist was assaulted by a police officer. It's extremely concerning. Now, we don't necessarily have all the details in terms of what the women were doing, but I'm sorry, even if the women were being kind of pushing them back or whatever, I don't know if that's grounds to assault anyone back. Yeah.
I spent a long time raising my son. I spent a huge part of my life. And if anything happened to him, God help the person that gets in front of me.
Yeah.
Because I certainly won't.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Like the fact that these women haven't bulldozed buildings to get the information is an effing miracle.
Yeah, like we're always talking about the actual, right? The cops, the manhandling, the people, right? But let's concentrate on why these women are doing what they're doing. They got literally boys that they don't know what the hell is going on with them. Where are they? What's their fate? Some of them, unfortunately, are fearing the worst. You know what I mean? And instead of you comforting them and saying, you know what, this needs to be addressed, this and that, you do that. Give me a break, man. This is no different than anything that they're complaining about, Kocharan and Sarkisian. And I'll argue anybody.
Right.
Yeah, look, just to give more context on this, it was female members of Armenia's veto movement. They were protesting Pashinyan and his government's lack of response to the plight of women whose husbands, sons, and brothers still remain in captivity in Azerbaijan. Their statement is powerful. I can read it, or we'll just post the link.
Let's keep going, guys.
Yeah, let's keep going. Yeah.
I'm assuming our readers can read.
Yeah, they'll exactly. We'll post the link. Yeah.
So I'm posting the links. The next one is an article on Kocharan, am I correct?
Yes. Kocharan did a tour with the Russian media. There's also a couple of articles that, first of all, he's been cleared of the coup charges, right?
Right.
The Pashinyan administration, which is kind of starting being touted as, how can Pashinyan be anti-coup? This and that. But in reality, one has nothing to do with the other. The man has his case. Obviously, the courts couldn't do anything with all of the charges levied against him. He's a little bit like a Teflon Don. I commend him for that. I don't care who doesn't like him. Yes, he's done a lot of corrupt stuff, but he also did not give up Artsakh, and he did not lose 4,000 boys. Okay, so I'm gonna, you can kill me over this statement.
It's true.
And
it's important to note that this is a 2018 coup attempt. He was accused of overthrowing the constitutional order under Article 300.1 back then.
Yeah.
So that's been thrown out. It was politically motivated from the 2008 post-election unrest that left 10 people dead. Greg, I remember that we talked about that back then.
Yes, absolutely. It was a yeah, and actually this was like Pashinyan's major kind of come up into the political life. He was during kind of the opposition at that time. We can go into this. Was the LTP? What is LTP? Levon Petrosyan was trying to make a comeback, and Pashinyan was his operative. Okay, so that's why I'm wondering every time people criticize Serge Sarkisian and Robert Kocharan, there's no word on Levon Petrosyan, which literally created the most corrupt system in Armenia. Okay, so like there's a lot of hypocrisy, there's a lot of uneducatedness from the diaspora and people that don't understand what's going on and how it was built that way. But we just don't have enough time, and one day maybe we can do a deep dive. Anyways, Robert Kochanan had an interview with a big media mogul in Russia. His name is
Vladimir.
Vladimir Posner. He's kind of like one of those. Oh, I don't want to do the Me Too movement thing, but Charlie Rose. That's the best way I can.
Yeah.
Like, okay, anyways, screw Charlie Rose, of course. He came on and he said what he had to say. He said about his past, and that he will be seeking a election on June 20th, whenever the hell that next election cycle is going to be. So that was the major takeaway. Anyway,
well, he also directly accused Pashinyan as being personally responsible for Armenia's defeat in the Second Artsakh War.
Absolutely. Yeah. David, and we talked about this. We want to actually one day do a town hall, bringing people together. The thing is that and this can actually tie into what we're talking about today, which is the digital life. And in the digital life, receipts are there. We can look up hashtags and pull up those tweets from months ago. We can actually do that. And we will see the Hachteluing, what Shushan Harutyunyan said, what Artsakh said, and what was done. And we can retrace how that war was a quote unquote lost, because I have zero problem with the boys that died doing that. But in reality, we can actually pinpoint to what Kocharan just said, regardless of how corrupt his administration was. Man, Armenians, man, I really want us to get smarter.
True. It's true.
We got to be smarter than that.
True.
Was Kocharan corrupt? Absolutely. But he did not lose Artsakh, man.
Right.
He did not lose Artsakh.
Right. And sometimes you have, there are, I put this without sounding like a complete jerk. I've never met a completely altruistic person that has been able to survive when your neighborhood is full of vipers. Like, you need someone who's going to be sharp and on guard. And a lot is said in this country about the military and how we lionize them and we treat them like heroes. But the reality is that the military has to do some pretty gnarly and heinous stuff that other people aren't willing to do. And that is the way that you create a line in which everyone behind the line can remain safe.
And have lattes and stuff.
That's right. You're not going to have a market without somebody standing guard to make sure the wolves don't come through the gate.
Americans love that one phrase, freedom ain't free, right? So it's kind of like that. So,
it's true. The one thing he points out, we've talked about a lot of the political mistakes Pashinyan has made. He directly addresses, he being Petrosyan, Kocharan, saying that Pashinyan demanding that Artsakh participate in negotiations with Azerbaijan created friction in the negotiation process.
Absolutely.
And it was ill-advised and led to a settlement deadlock. And we can go on and on.
Guys, there were like these tenets of things, like everyone's like, free, recognize Artsakh, but there was also this political game that we as Armenians were always playing. It's like, yes, let's keep talking about Artsakh while strengthening our lines. He comes in and immediately goes, Shushi is the capital of Artsakh, when it's actually Stepanakert, right? And he goes, I will be celebrating the presidential election of what's his name?
Arach.
Yeah, Arach, right? When he gets elected, like over and over and over, essentially giving the reason for the enemy to go like, that's it. You know what I mean? Like why would you be so? What's the careless?
Yeah,
exactly.
You could be careless for two reasons. You're either really stupid or you knew something. Okay. So
It's
Which
so
one do
true.
you want to do?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know when, and hopefully we'll be able to get to it. But what we do know is that there are some big changes coming right now in terms of military. There's two big items to talk about. I don't know which one you want to start with.
I mean, David, the defense chief, right? And
Yeah. So they had a phone call. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, with the Armenian counterpart Artsakh Harutyunyan, talked about Russia's military presence in Armenia and sweeping defense reforms announced by Yerevan. We need more than sweeping, right? But Russia didn't give any details on this conversation. But the longer readout of the phone call released by Armenia's defense ministry focused on activities of Russian military base in Armenia, as well as large-scale reforms launched in the Armenian army after last year's war with Azerbaijan. Very clearly, we need large-scale reform, and very clearly, we need Russia's ongoing support, because I think we all know right here, Armenia cannot defend itself. Very sadly, they cannot.
Right.
No. Let's hyphenate this. We can damn well defend ourselves against Azerbaijan.
Yes.
We just can't defend ourselves against Turkey. It's kind of like a lot.
Turkey, Azerbaijan,
the jihadists,
Pakistan.
Exactly. No, thank you. Absolutely. Thank you.
So like somehow Aliyev is getting a pass today, like he's victorious. He's a little sissy boy that I swear to God I never want to see in my life.
Apparently the Gyumri Russian military base in Gyumri is going to be expanded due to military political realities in the region, quote unquote, and also that more Russian troops could be deployed to Armenia's southeastern Sunik province. As we know, that is a big.
I welcome that with open arms.
Yes.
Clearly, Armenian troops are not doing shit.
So, the other thing is, and again, David, you mentioned this earlier, I don't like to share, links to the enemy.
Yeah.
Especially, people who, but, there's a few other people who are reporting on this, which is that, Azerbaijan and Turkey are going to be holding joint operational tactical exercises right on our borders. Once again, the same thing they did
Starting
just
tomorrow.
before the war started.
This is like the fourth time already. I don't know. I'm losing count.
Yeah, and just a few weeks ago, we were having exercises and they were too, and now they're still doing it again, April 8 and 9. And guys, if I'm not mistaken, today's April 7. It's now April 8 a.m. over there. So
yeah, well,
you guys get it. Viewers should get it.
Yeah.
It's beyond concerning.
Well, I mean, and again, I've made mention of this with a few different episodes, and that is, on top of all the COVID issues that the rest of us here in the country have been dealing with, Armenians particularly have had a different heightened level of stress. I mean, the three of us are experiencing that personally. And this.
Yeah,
I'll move through it. We all will, but it's not easy. And I'm gonna start dropping F-bombs in a minute if I don't watch it. You know what I'm saying? It's just
I know. I did in our prep meeting, man. Go ahead, dude.
Yeah.
So and on that note, I mean, it's not just the killing of people, which is of course the most important thing, but the displacement of them from their homes. And then once that happens, there's a huge cultural crisis that is happening, because, as we know, these people they don't even recognize us as humans, let alone people that have predated them in the area.
And this is who we're going to be, doing economic business with. Like, I'm not understanding the broader picture that the neoliberal elite wants to share to me. Oh, I know there'll be Armenians that will benefit from this opening up of the borders. And now you're going to have like a capitalist upper class. It's going to be even richer. And what's the point of getting rid of the oligarchy if now you're going to have this left-leaning oligarchy that's going to come in? The Jeff Bezos and the Zuckerbergs. By the way, those are all very liberal people. You know what I mean? They like their lattes.
That's the rumor.
They like their lattes and they eat, only, grass-fed stuff, So
right.
Well, I mean, while that's important, I think that, right now we're lobbying UNESCO to help preserve these cultural sites, because, as we've shown in previous episodes, they're destroying churches, they're destroying everything, and they're acting as though it was never there in the first place.
Exactly. And then they actually have full-on PR campaigns around that, right, Rich? So like, this is Armenia's National Commission for UNESCO, met on Tuesday of this week, and they reaffirmed the need to protect Armenia's cultural monuments that have fallen under Azerbaijan's control. Again, all of this need to protect while it's being destroyed in front of our eyes. Again, we're frustrated here. Greg, we hear it in your voice. I hear it in your voice, Rich. And actually, Rich, like you touched on at the very top, we're going to get into ways we could take more action to try to not control the narrative, but to share information about this so people know about it. But again, it's beyond frustrating and upsetting that this continues to happen despite these meetings, despite the levels of the government, the head of government talking about it. I don't know what it's going to take for it to actually stop. I don't know.
Well, and the problem is that, you can't just rebuild these,
Right.
and here, this is the thing that many of us have been trying to explain from the beginning. And when I say the beginning, I mean not just like from the beginning of discussion around genocide recognition, is that you can't undo the damage once it's been done. You might be able to move forward, you might be able to reconcile, you might be able to have a Truth and Reconciliation Commission and find a place to start from. But once you kill someone, once you destroy an ancient building, you cannot replace either of those things. And the thing is that they know that. And so when they're left unchecked, they're going to keep doing this stuff. And that's why, like, if UNESCO takes months to have a discussion about whether or not these sites should be preserved, they're all going to be gone by the time they make a decision. And that's why I think we need to, that's
why we need to get rid of Pashinyan, guys. Everything lies in that bottleneck.
Yeah.
Because that man literally doesn't care about what's happening in Artsakh, what's happening in Sunni. I really don't know what drives him. But I really, really, really want to take everyone that's listening and that's listening later on, because not everyone's listening to us live, research Nakhichevan. Look at how sterilized Nakhichevan is of Armenian existence. Yeah. And it was a very, very, very rich Armenian community. Everyone that's Armenian from Iran is originally from Nakhichevan. Right. All the merchants of India are originally from Nakhichevan. And Nakhichevan used to be a very, very prosperous region of the Armenian kingdoms, okay, or the vilayets under even Ottoman and Persian rule. Now there's no sign of Armenians.
Yeah, 28,000 monuments, Armenian monuments, were destroyed in Nakhichevan, Greg. To your point, this article mentions that 28,000 monuments, and it's actually apparently the foreign minister of Armenia, the current foreign minister, Ayvazyan, right? Is it Ara? Is that his name? He's actually the chairman of Armenia's National Commission for UNESCO. Ara Ayvazyan, the foreign minister, he mentioned this. He mentioned Nakhichevan. So I mean, he's out there talking about it. We need more action, and we'll talk about ways that we can help drive that action as well.
Right. We have a couple more pretty important news items before we move on. We've got to talk about the record label and then the COVID update.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right.
We're doing good, guys.
Exciting news about this item. I really like it because we here in the United States have a similar issue we can briefly deal with. So this is obviously a label, what do you call it? DXX, one large, what do you call it? Musical performer duo, whatever you want to call it, is assigned to this label from London called the Young Turks, right? And it's a very, very, very popular and big name in the music industry. And my friend Laura, that we all know, she's always talked about how problematic this is, and actually a lot has to be attributed to her and her friends in the music that have been constantly tweeting at this record label saying, "Hey man, great artists, great performers, great things you're doing in the music industry, but your name is very problematic because the name literally comes from the perpetrators of the Armenian genocide."
Right.
Finally, to me, out of the blue, almost we can say, yesterday I get tweets. First time I saw it from actually our friend Tatiana in London. It's a mention of, hey, how they moved their name, very well rebrand from the Young Turks to Young. It's a label that deals in a lot of great, and we'll let the musician speak here. Rich has a musical background. It's an amazing precedent set by a very, very, very big label.
Yeah, for sure. And to be fair, and this is I wouldn't even call it brilliance on the part of the Turks, is just sort of happenstance, which I'll go on record to say that much of what the Turks have done has been to exploit happenstance. I can't think of very many things that they've produced in the world that they haven't gotten from somebody else. We can go down a list.
Turkish coffee.
Armenian. The cotton? Oh no, that's Egyptian. The bats? No, that's Roman.
Apricots. Apricots.
Right.
The shape of their mosques, it's Hagia Sophia, the Byzantine churches.
For sure. But the point I'm trying to make is that Young Turks, the name Young Turks has become ubiquitous with rebellion and usurping power, and so people don't even have not recognized the origins of this name until people start pushing. And so there's two things I'd like to say. One is that this is the problem with pushing culture when you don't know where it comes from. This is the problem with I don't know how many of us throughout every day spout off phrases or words that we really don't know where they come from. I am doing what I can to try and unpack that use of language to figure out what that means. And there's a whole bunch of examples. But I'm glad that they took the time to be a little bit more reflective and try and change things.
And David, you mentioned that they also, not only did they do that, they also doubled down on actually mentioning, look, the Rolling Stone, due to the resonance with the Armenian genocide, as well as donating to an Armenian org as part of their kind of like, here you go, sorry. Definitely, obviously doesn't do like the decades of damage, right?
Right.
Also, you know Rod Stewart. Apparently, the label's after that guy's. He has a song called The Young Turks, and actually,
I know that song.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I got a funny story about that. When I was a kid, I loved that song.
Yeah.
As a kid, I thought it was because
that song, by the way, is sampled by The Weeknd. It's a very popular song that's currently playing. That is the song that's sampled or kind of like remastered to make the tune for The Weeknd song, right? Anyways, we're getting a little bit too much.
Yeah, no, it's good. Obviously, it's a positive thing. To your point, Greg, like it took decades to do it, more than a decade to do it, decades to do it, right? It's just like, I wish it was sooner, but yes, obviously this is very positive. I think it's really great that publications like the Rolling Stone are writing about it. So it's reaching more people that may not even have any idea about the Young Turks or about the Armenian genocide. I think that's another really positive aspect of it. So yes, it is positive. And again, they did make a donation as well to an Armenian charity in London that our friend is a trustee of out there in London. Yeah. So.
I usually do anyway, but whatever. No, you're right. Okay, so you want to get on to the COVID, the last.
Yeah, let's touch on COVID. We had a donation, guys.
All right. I appreciate that.
We need to thank Chris. Chris, thank you so much for your donation on there. Anyone else, while we're live or after the fact, you can still donate.
I appreciate that. Quick suggestion, one more thing before we put the Young Turk issue to rest. We here in the United States have a left-wing, super to the left, whatever show co-hosted none other by an Armenian woman named the TYT, the Young Turks network. Okay, that is the next subject of our focus, meaning as the diaspora, us as Americans, not even Armenian. Okay, that need to.
Yeah, and Greg, to your point, one of the hosts is Armenian, right? Anna, Ani something, right? It's
Anna something.
Ani
Anna. She goes by Anna.
Oh, okay.
Anna Kachaturian or something like that.
I think it's Kasparian. Yeah.
Kasparian, yes. Anna Kasparian. By the way, a woman that's very well knowledgeable about all things Armenian, because she is Armenian. Actually, the best person that digested what's going on in Artsakh.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, there's a little bit of a. little bit of a thing, feedback going here.
It's okay.
Anyways,
You guys
COVID,
sound okay?
COVID
You
in
guys good?
Armenia. COVID is still a problem.
Yeah, they're in the middle of a fourth
Yeah.
wave that's
Um,
beyond concerning.
you know, this has been an ongoing thing, up and down. You know, we've got some new numbers come in. Let's take a look at that right now. So we've got our statistics here.
Yeah.
You know, in October it was peaking, and it looked like it was dropping in January, but now we're looking at another crest. Hopefully this will begin to level off as more people get inoculated and get you know, get
Yeah, they have
their shot.
AstraZeneca, they have Sputnik vaccines coming. You know, it's just how do we get the vaccines to the villages? How do we get proper mask wearing over there? I don't know, but you know, there were 19 deaths as of yesterday.
Which for
Three
Armenia, it's huge. For a country that size, it's huge.
Well, yeah, not just that, 760 out of 3,470 people that were tested as of April 6th or April 5th, 760 of them were positive. So, you know, it's very high. It's very high.
There's a 30% positivity rate, dude. That's enormous.
Right.
There's 15,000, what's it called? There's 15,713 individuals currently being treated for the virus in Armenia right now. So it's very concerning. And you know, look, during the war, people obviously there were things that there was much bigger concerns for people to worry about. You could still wear a mask, right? But like during the war, we get it, but now, I mean, as there's still humanitarian crisis going on in Artsakh, but this isn't even the Artsakh numbers. This is Armenian numbers. You know, people need to do something to try to stem what's going on.
Well,
And,
you know, this whole false belief that, oh, you know, it's not that big a deal, or maybe, you know, I'll be okay. I'm not going to worry about it. I'll just take a shot of vodka or something like that. That's completely unbelievable.
right,
Like, unbelievable.
right. Yeah, I mean, look, there some positive things are happening in terms of aid coming to Armenia, right? USAID is promising $1 million more for COVID aid, and then Poland is also providing new humanitarian aid to Armenia for fighting COVID-19. So we're grateful to see that foreign support for COVID. So, and
Well, you know, how do we feel about getting into this deck and about showing some people how to really utilize social media a little differently?
let's do it. And I want to thank both of you guys for being willing to take this on our platform. It's really important. You know, a lot of people, well, I wouldn't even say a lot. People share links all the time, but there's more we can do with sharing that information, right, Rich? As you said it so well, in more engaging ways and in ways that could perhaps have more impact. So,
Right. So we're going to do a little technical, little switch up, change up here. We have had, I've got a couple computers running, and I built one purposely for this broadcast, and I don't have PowerPoint on it yet. But what I am going to do is just, if you'll just humor me for a second.
No worries. Yeah, while you're pulling it up, I'll give everybody the background real quick then. That way we can just get straight into it. There's an Artsakh task force here in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, that's focused on pulling the whole community together and highlighting different organizations and their work to help Artsakh in Armenia. One of the committees that was part of the task force was a PR and media and advocacy committee. That committee gave a media training. This portion was on social media. I was involved with it, as well as other subcommittee members or committee members were presenting on media and advocacy. And so this is the portion that's on social media. And then we'll go into a little bit more detail on ways you can actually take action around POWs, sharing information about POWs, about the ecocide, environmental genocide that was committed by Azerbaijan, as well as the destruction of cultural heritage sites in Artsakh by Azerbaijan. So that looks great. Rich, I want to give you a huge shout out and commend you for the work you did in redesigning this and cleaning it up and making it just look great for our platform here. So thank you for your work.
Thank you so much.
Wow, I didn't know I was going to get a disco.
We got a little echo.
How about that? Better? No.
It's okay. It's just, it's echoing. It's
Now.
No.
No.
maybe there's two audio sources. Is that it?
Yeah, sorry about that.
No problem. Thanks
How
for
about
being
this?
with us, guys.
Better?
Maybe. There you go.
Okay, so we're gonna go with a different audio. David, I'm just gonna have to go and do a little speaking without any volume, so give me a second.
No problem.
Okay, how about now? Okay,
It's better. Yeah, it's better.
okay.
I
So,
want to thank everyone for tuning in for this, and we can make this presentation and additional materials that we're sharing available to anybody that's interested in it. Just message us or put a comment on the feed.
all right. So let's get right into it. And then
Let's do
David,
it.
I'll hand it off to you in a second as soon as I can.
Yeah, no worries, man. Yeah, we've already done the overview of what it's from, and so we can just go straight into it. Yeah. Thanks for bearing with us, guys. Technical.
Sorry, usually I'm a lot better at this, but there's something going
go.
on here. At any rate,
Perfect.
so let's talk about social media activism and what it means and how to really do it. And David, you can chime in whenever you can. And the first question is, why would you want to use social media?
Exactly.
Obviously, it's because there's a lot of good, things that you can accomplish.
We're going to talk a little bit about that.
First of all, there's accessibility.
The immediacy of it, how you can distribute it to everybody. And you got a huge reach, and you can target your audience. Furthermore, you get to control the message. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of different sources to get messages from.
The question is, how do you shape that and bring it out to everyone else? So when using social media for advocacy, it's an opportunity for you to rally your friends and followers, to encourage engagement in the issues, and to add context to the links that you share. This will also give you an opportunity to report trolls and aggressive behavior and questionable or brutal content that you see all over the place.
Yeah. Those last two are really important, Rich. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off on that last one there.
Why don't you go for it?
Yeah. No, I mean, like, it's so important to not engage. I mean, I think we've all been there, right? During the war, especially, you get Azeri trolls commenting on a post, or maybe you're on one of the large organizations and you see Azeri trolls in the whole feed of comments, and then you want to go in on them, and then it just starts this whole rabbit hole and problem. The problem is, bless you, the problem is it increases their visibility, not ours or not yours, right? So it's really important to not engage with the other side or the trolls, but you want to report them always, and you always want to report the brutal content and aggressive behavior. Yeah.
You can use a trigger warning, right, when sharing difficult or brutal content, right? So let's talk a little bit about the hashtags.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right. So the question is, what is a hashtag? For those of you who don't know, it is really a word or phrase that is preceded by a hashtag sign, and it is used on social media, websites, and applications, especially Twitter, to identify digital content in a specific time. David, you want to take it from here for a second?
Sure, man. Sure. Go ahead. Yeah, just hit there you go. What's really great about the hashtag, it's going to make it easier for people to discover your post, especially if they're searching around that topic. And it means that you're taking part in that conversation on that platform, right? So Twitter really started this, and then it just went across all the platforms. And it's really important to use specific hashtags for Artsakh and Armenia. And we're going to get into those, and we're going to keep highlighting those. You can see it in our very posts from every episode, right? Artsakh strong, things like recognizing Artsakh, that's still important, sanctioning Turkey and Azerbaijan, really calling out Azeri war crimes, stopping Erdogan, stopping Aliyev. But really, we're going to drill down on this in a moment. Free Armenian POWs, preserve Artsakh, and things like peace for Armenians and so on. but free
That's right.
Armenian POWs and preserve Artsakh, as well as things like environment or ecocide as well. So that's going to really touch on those things.
So, you know, an obvious quick question is, how many hashtags should I use? Because you could copy and paste and put a bunch of them on there, but it really depends on the platform that you're going to be using. So for Facebook, you know, maximum of 2 in order to get the most engagement.
Right.
Up to 30 in Instagram in order to get, you know, you can be searchable. And then for Twitter, you've got a maximum of 2
Right.
for, you know, for engagement.
And I'll share with you guys, and this is really quick note, that really surprised me, right? Because especially on Facebook, we're using more on our posts here. That's because we want to include them on there. But yes, maximum engagement, really only 2 for Facebook and Twitter, whereas Instagram, that's why you tend to see all the list of hashtags at the bottom of people's Instagram posts, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, when using social media, it's best to follow appropriate officials, individuals, and organizations. And by that, we mean like legitimate organizations. You really have to look at the websites and understand a little bit about who it is that's broadcasting to you to make sure it's not disinformation. Try to engage only with positive influencers, right? So follow and share to amplify their voices, because you know it's easy for us to get cynical. It's easy for us to, you know, be jaded and be frustrated. But if you want people to engage with your content, you've got to try and have some sort of positive spin on it, even if it's difficult. And I know personally, I'm guilty of, you know, being negative periodically too. So this is not a zero-sum game here.
Right. But Rich, just to add, that's also to help try to counteract all the fake bots and negativity that's out there, right? You know, anyway, go ahead.
That's right. That's right. So there are, I mean, these 3 major platforms, these are the 3 big ones, right? We've got Twitter and we've got, you know, Facebook, and we have Instagram. Twitter is fast. It's really almost real time. There's a lot of information. It's, you know, it's very noisy. Think about this as being like, you know, the subway platform in New York. If you want a lot of people to know about it, that you got to broadcast on that. Whereas Instagram is very visual. It's great for pictures. It's great for short stories and sharing images. And, you know, with that, you know, you can use third-party apps to, you know, like repost, you know, for Apple and Android. You can share those posts to Instagram pretty often because, you know, you want to ramp up the velocity a little bit.
To your stories, right? Instagram stories, right? Yeah. Sorry.
You know, I'm not really good at that, David. You are really exceptional at that. So is Greg. I don't. That's not usually my jam. But you know, again, it really depends on what it is that you want to achieve and what you want to get out there. If you want to just show pictures of your life, that's one thing. But if you're trying to aim for a particular objective, this is where this kind of information can come in handy.
Exactly.
Facebook is great for a lot of things. But it's a longer form. It's great to put longer stories with pictures and other stuff. So you could post your timeline and stories. It's best to keep this concise though, even though you know, it's a little bit longer of a form. If you go too long, and I'm guilty of making enormously long posts, people will tune out after a while. And so the question is, what's your objective? Do you want people to absorb the content? Do you want people to do something with it? Or do you want to just tell a story? If you want to use it as a confessional, like I do sometimes, that's one thing. But if you want to get your point across and you want action to happen, you got to craft your narrative a little bit differently.
Yep.
All right. So then, you know, an example on Facebook, you'll see a medium-sized post that has a picture, you know, a little bit of, you know, tagging people on it, pretty important stuff. Another one could be what looks like an Instagram picture that has been reposted on Facebook. So it's, you know, cross-pollination is really important for success.
It is. Rich, if you go back real quick to the first one, what's really great about that is that's actually showing a link that's pasted into the Facebook post, and it comes up very visually. That's one thing that's really nice about Facebook is they make when you post a link, it's very visual. And so what's great about this is it's a nice caption with that very visual link there.
Right.
Yeah. And then Instagram,
you know, again, very picture oriented. But with that, you can also you can have a narrative that goes along behind it as well. And you can see there's a lot of different people who will follow it or whatnot. Same thing. this one looks like a tweet that has been turned into an Instagram picture and then sent out. So from here, you're also getting the opportunity to put a little bit of narrative and spin on it as well.
And you're not seeing the hashtags there, but yes, the Instagram will have, you know, up to 30 hashtags are searchable. So you can put as many as you want in there to be found.
Great.
Yeah, up to 30.
So, you know, what's important about the hashtags is that, you know, if you want to educate your friends, instead of going into a big narrative about it and saying, oh, well, there was this genocide and here's what happened and we're still fighting today and then we're not getting international recognition, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. What you can do is say, you know what, just look up this hashtag and you can see all the content that's being generated. So this is an opportunity for you to also talk about the things that need to be talked about without having a major long discussion about it and let someone else do their own investigation.
That's a great point. Yeah. This I thought was a perfect example of a tweet. This guy's great, by the way. I recommend, he's a good follow. Johnny M. You see that short caption, 2 very specific hashtags.
Right.
Yeah.
This is where we talk about velocity versus depth. Okay. He's got just enough depth to make it like, oh my gosh, something happened.
Yep.
I need to learn a little bit more about it. Here's a couple places where I can go. Because if you start to tack on too much, people are going to be like, that seems like a whole huge rabbit hole for me to go down, and I don't know how to do that, right? So, or maybe it prevents their willingness to go any further, right? So, let's talk a little bit about how to combat the unfair media and war crimes that have already been occurring, right, David? Can you speak to this? I'll punch through it.
Yeah, let's do it, man. So definitely, you know, we've seen. You want to post across all the platforms if possible. If you spend more time on one than other, if you have more followers on more than one or the other, maybe you could prioritize your time that way. But it's really good to share across all platforms as much as possible. And you want to be using specific hashtags by the issue. So you see, you also want to be tagging journalists and publications that are associated with articles that you're finding. And you want to amplify the voices that are calling out any unfair reporting. We saw unfair reporting by New York Times, especially multiple times during the war and even after the war. Also, you want to be tagging human rights groups and major media outlets on your posts as well. And we're going to get into more detail on this in a second, but you want to be tagging environmental NGOs as well as climate influencers. You see the white phosphorus burning the forest. They literally burnt thousands of hectares of forest in Artsakh. That needs to be called out. It was called out very, very little during the war, and it needs to be called out even more. And also, you want to be tagging heritage and historical preservation organizations about the cultural genocide that we're seeing by them destroying churches, destroying khachkars, and vandalizing Gazanjet shots and so on. So,
right.
Rich, take it away, man. Yeah.
So here's the next couple things we're going to do. I'm going to give you some takeaways and of this whole, you know, few slides that we've gone through. And as I pull this down, David is going to talk about how we focus all the things that we've talked about, right? So, so the takeaway is that we all should be using social media because it is the best way to engage others and to create long-lasting change, the kind of change that we've been talking about. This is the new shape of the world. We have a lot more control over narratives than we ever have before, and all we have to do is use the tools that are here. Hashtags make focusing an issue for ourselves and for our compatriots much easier and much more effective than it ever has been. Because before we used to have to go to the newspaper, we used to have to, you know, pull up a website or whatever, but now we can actually take all that information and help shape the way this is, you know, put out into the world. Remember, you know, 2 hashtags on Facebook for maximum engagement because it is a longer form discussion based. So that means you can post occasionally on it.
It has a longer life, right? Right, Rich? They have longer shelf life.
I think there's a lot more discussion around it. I think the other platforms are more rapidly engaged and more visibly seen, but more discussion and more time is spent on Facebook. So it's more of a thinkers. For lack of a better way of putting it, if you're going to have discussion, you're going to do it on Facebook. If you're going to see things, you're going to see it on Instagram. But if you're going to learn about, you know, just breaking stuff, it's going to be on Twitter usually.
Yep.
So you know, with Instagram, you know, you can put up a whole bunch of different hashtags so you can, you know, broadcast everywhere. because it's visual pictures, post often, because the more you push that algorithm, the more stuff is going to be shown, and the more stuff will be seen, and the more stuff will be absorbed. With Twitter, maximum of 2, because you want high velocity. You don't necessarily want high depth. What you want is for people to go out, see it, find more, and share it. And what you want to do is use Twitter as an opportunity to blast everywhere. It's short form, super viral, so tweet frequently, right? And again, the takeaway should be that you follow legitimate organizations and people that you either know personally or that you know about through the social mediums, because then you're not just some person with a tinfoil hat tweeting out at 3 o'clock in the morning about stuff that doesn't matter, right? And again, avoid confrontation, because what's the line that a fool will drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. You know what I mean? And so don't go down that rabbit hole with them, because the other one is what's the key to happiness? Not arguing with fools, right? Right. And we operate, and when I say operate ethically, I think authenticity goes a lot further than we give it credit for, right?
Do not engage with trolls. Trolls are people that literally, there's a troll in me as well. Sometimes when I want to just throw a hockey puck into a conversation, I will just be like, you know what? I am no longer arguing the matter of the content. I'm just throwing jabs at the person. I will look up the person's profile and be like, your nose is ugly, which has nothing to do with the argument. So my statement to you, friends, is do not engage with trolls. Trolls are there just to push at your at your feelings. They're not there to perpetuate a conversation. So that's right.
Well said.
Okay.
Okay.
No, great
So
stuff.
now we're going to go back to.
Audio okay? Audio okay, guys? That was great.
All right. Okay, we're getting closer.
We are. You guys, I can hear you guys clean. You guys all right?
All
All
right.
right, David, did you want to talk about?
Yeah,
already on it, I think.
super quick, if it's okay, just so people can see. This just gives you a little more detail around each of the main things that we're faced with, right? So,
Yep.
Combating the torture and treatment of POWs. You want to be tagging. You want to follow and share posts from the human rights defender of Artsakh and Armenia. This is the old, Artsakh Baglarian was the old one, but he's still putting up a lot of stuff around this issue. And then also, you always want to be tagging human rights organizations in your posts. UN, Human Rights Watch, Human Rights Watch Europe, Central Asia, Amnesty International, just as examples. And you want to be using hashtags, free Armenian POWs, Azeri war crimes, until they are home. These are examples of hashtags you want to be using. Peace for Armenians, things like that. Okay, this is to tailor your posts around the subject.
So, David, would I be correct in assuming that number one, we're going to put? Jesus Christ Almighty!
What is that?
It's
What is
okay. Okay, guys.
What is going on?
I don't know. Facebook is.
We got a music soundtrack. It's okay.
But at any rate,
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: would I be correct in assuming that not only are you going to put up the all these hashtags for us all to see, but that we're going to make it available in other places as well?
Yes.
You mean me personally right now? Is that what you mean?
Like let's copy and paste these
Yes.
hashtags, put it in the thing. And the other thing that I would ask is obviously you have it in a centralized place. Maybe a good practice would be to put it on somebody's phone, like in your notes, so that you can refer to these and use them as you want, right? Well said,
because it gets to be a little bit challenging if you're constantly searching for these groups and these accounts. Well said. Just to keep it moving, guys, this is on the cultural genocide we're seeing, and it's continuing. We reported on continuing problem there. This is really important to always use hashtags, preserve Artsakh, recognize Artsakh, right? You could still use peace for Armenians. You could still use Artsakh strong, things like that. preserve Artsakh is really important because we not only want to preserve the environment of Artsakh, we want to preserve the cultural heritage sites of Artsakh. Then you want to be tagging international organizations that are supposedly supposed to be protecting these heritage sites around the world, right? These are examples. Getty's more of a US based one, but you have Global Heritage Fund, you have ICOMOS, you have World Monuments Fund, you have UNESCO, okay? Maybe you guys have seen some of my posts and my stories. I try to tag them all the time. We need to keep staying on their radar, okay? And then in terms of the environmental war crimes that we saw, I feel like this did not get enough coverage or enough discussion at all during the war and even now. White phosphorus was used, burning of forests, the purposeful destruction of forests was done during the war. It's important to tag these wildlife and environmental NGOs. It's important to use these hashtags, ecocide, environment, climate, and then don't forget, preserve Artsakh.
Alrighty.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
this is
So
incredible. These are things that people
yeah,
need to understand. This is digital advocacy.
Exactly.
But I want to wrap it up this way, guys. I actually wanted to do something I think we haven't discussed. The most important thing is also physical advocacy. And what's happening soon?
Right.
It's April 24th. It is very, very important that we continue to usher in the need to recognize the Armenian genocide. It is even more so, I want to say, important now. I know usually we all talk about, oh, the 100th, the 105th, whatever, these milestone years. Well, today is the 106th anniversary of the Armenian genocide. It's no less important than 107th or the 103rd or the 96th. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So we need to continue pushing the genocide recognition.
For sure.
you're absolutely right. Especially with the president, right, Greg? Especially because the U.S. Congress it's important for the U.S. president to do that. And we have some links on our link tree as well as available for us to share on how to call for that now.
I'd like to wrap the 2 weeks. What we've done in the past 2 weeks has been this. Obviously, we've gone through our news items. We've also had a special guest last week to talk about, how to actually acquire content and how to begin to process that from different sources. In other words, this one's a little left, this one's a little right, this one's a little bit center, and how to sort of differentiate who's being funded by who. Hopefully, you're all doing a little bit of your own personal investigation to figure out a little bit more. I don't think it's really our place to say you should pay attention to these people and you shouldn't pay attention to those people, because we've all been gifted with at least enough intellect to sort some of that out. And then this week, we talked a little bit about, how to use that content and share it with other people to get them engaged. Because, as we all know, if you can't be inside a senator's office, the next best thing is to, call them and then beyond that, it's, sending them a letter. It's better if you're going to handwrite a letter, or at least hand sign it. But there are levels of advocacy, and the more difficult it is to do, the more impact it has.
Yep.
So, tweeting is great, spreading awareness is great, but awareness without action is just really creating noise. And what we want to do is be more effective. I've always maintained that if we can't out fundraise the Turks, and if we can't out fundraise the Azeris, we can out organize and we can out execute, and that's what we need to do. So with that said, I'm looking forward to the next couple of weeks. We've got more news next week. We're working on a special guest for the week, for the Wednesday, Wednesday the 21st, just before Genocide Recognition Day, which we all hope President Biden will do the right thing and do the right thing. So with that, I don't know. What else do you guys have?
I'm done. I
I
think
think that's it. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. And
all right.
Yeah.
Next week, 9 p.m. We'll try and be on time next time.
yeah, thanks for
We
tuning
love
in.
you all. Thank you for being here.